Hi. So it's a nice bright morning here. Can hear birds singing outside. Nice sunshine coming through. It's chilly, but it's a nice day. Um, I want to talk about social media, which is really one of the defining mediums of our time, for want of a better term. Um, there isn't a day goes by when most people, or let's say a lot of people, don't check into Facebook or some other form of social media. Over a billion people use Facebook, so I don't think that's hyperbole. I think it's a huge part of people's lives. But I've been thinking about some people who kind of take a step to say that they no longer want to be on social media, or at least they want to step back from it. And I have a lot of respect for this. I have a lot of respect for their reasoning in doing so. Actually, Tyson Fury said something to that effect. The heavyweight boxer, when he said that it was a segment about things that he couldn't live without. Most of it was kind of rich guy stuff, that only a world champion athlete could afford. But one thing caught my attention, which was that when he's in training camp, he likes to turn off his phone for 3 days. Now, I could very easily make this video about how much we rely on smartphones as well. As it so happens, my own smartphone, I can show you actually, it's very basic. It's my smartphone. Make phone calls, text messages. I think there's a few other features, but it is very basic compared to what most people have. And I feel mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I feel kind of emancipated from the reliance that a lot of other people have. Like they seem to be glued to their phones. I don't have that. On the other hand, it also means I miss out from, for example, when I was in China, everyone had a much better smartphone than me, and it meant that they could download WeChat, and I couldn't. My phone didn't support it. So there is a social aspect to that, and that's significant because a lot of people kept in touch that way, not just for social reasons, for work reasons as well. So it was a bit of an issue for me. Not to the point where it affected my work per se, but it was noticeable. It was something that I kind of had to think about for maybe future reliance. I definitely will need to get a better smartphone at some point, but I don't want to do it as a fashion accessory. I want to do it because, well, frankly, I don't really want to do it, but it's just the reality. I know that I may need a better smartphone for work, I intend to be a freelance journalist, so obviously for practical reasons I'd need a bit much better phone than the one I've got. That's just an example. In a similar way, I think that social media, there's a reliance factor there. Um, I respect those who make that option to say, what's the point of it all? I had a discussion with a friend recently. He just went to South Korea to teach. Um, and he barely goes on social media, which is admirable. I think there's not many people can do that, and it's kind of a little bit. I don't want to say pathetic, but it's just a telling sign of our times that so many of us do rely on it. Now, for me, and I think this may be true of many people, it's not a vanity thing. It's not that, oh, I need to be online to update about how I'm feeling about things. There is actually practical reasons for social media, and this would be the other side of the argument. Some people simply can't afford to give it up because it is the only way they can keep in touch with friends around the world. Now, if you're like me and you have contacts around the world, simply saying, oh, well, I've got the phone number, that is obviously not practical. So social media, and I'm not just talking about Facebook, I'm talking about other formats, Skype, QQ if you have Chinese friends. Although that's increasingly a lot of young Chinese are not using QQ so much these days, it's more WeChat. Um, that's practical. If you say that you are rejecting social media, I respect the reasons because it's kind of a fashion accessory and people see it as a little bit shallow and people update their feelings on it, etc. And it can also lead to a lot of negativity. I totally respect the reasons that people are turning against it, but I also think they need to understand that people also rely on social media in a way that's, I mean, the world's more interconnected than ever before. What Tyson Fury actually said in his interview was, remember back to 1996. I don't know why I chose that year in particular. Maybe it was just, first year that came to mind, where a time when we didn't have social media and smartphones. I mean, it's only the 90s, but it feels like a totally different era in that sense. And we're so accustomed to Facebook that it is genuinely hard to see life without smartphones and social media. And I always say, give it a shot. Just go out for a few hours, take a walk without your phone. Don't unless it's like for necessary reasons. You need to be in touch with family members or something. But I think it's healthy to try that. To try just escaping from modern technology for a while, just getting into the real world for a few hours at least. Um, I mean, when we think of smartphones, people, I find it very sad. I've never really been in this situation, thankfully. But put it this way, if I was on a date with a girl and she spent half the time looking at her phone, I would feel a bit like, well, what's the point? Like, am I boring? Am I being boring here? Or is it just, you would definitely, it's human nature, you would think, what's that all about? Or when you go to a party and, half the people are looking at their phones, it's very sad. And yet people are so used to doing it that I don't think they even realize they're being antisocial half the time. So I would argue smartphones have definitely created basic etiquette problems, but also basic communication problems. And it's one of these things, it's like they have their uses. I mean, if you're in an emergency situation, they could have uses that we wouldn't have had in the past. Um, and I also think social media, I'm not going to say it's an entirely bad thing. I think that would be too dismissive. It's a bit like dismissing all modern films as rubbish, which is not true. They're not. So I wouldn't entirely dismiss social media because it can spread awareness of things. It can even play a role in connecting old friends. So I'm not going to say it's entirely bad, but I do think that overt reliance on it can be negative. So when I hear people saying they're quitting social media, I take my hat off to them. Don't have a hat on right now, but if I had a hat, got a hat up there, but anyway, I can't do that. And it's not because I can't live without it per se. It's because I have friends around the world and social media is the only way I have a connection with them. And it's not that I speak to them all the time, but if I was visiting their country and I wanted to get in touch, you know, in the past, probably letters or emails would have been the only way that people could do that. And emails are something that's very established, but I don't know if that's a secure way. I mean, with social media, you could share photographs, you can make a lot of arrangements in a way that I don't know. I think it's a very mixed thing. So to those who have quit social media, I totally understand that and I wish them all the best. But I don't think they should judge others, because not everyone does it for shallow reasons. I mean, I know in my case, I stay on Facebook because there are people I want to keep in touch with, and it's the only way to keep in touch with them. Well, not the only way, but it is a convenient way to do so. Um, So let me know your thoughts. If you've decided to quit social media, obviously not entirely because you're watching this video, but if you've quit Facebook, for example, I'd be interested to know what's your reason for that. I mean, certainly I need to cull my Facebook. I'm in way too many groups that I never participate in. Maybe I like them at one point because I agree with a particular cause or whatever, but I also found that there are simply too many people I'm connected with because I once said hello to them. Now that's ridiculous. So I'm trying to, um, scope down the number of people I'm connected with because I think it's just pointless. But there's others I do want to be connected with. So let me know your thoughts. What's your experience? I think it's healthy to get away from social media for a while, but I wouldn't entirely dismiss it. Your thoughts?